So hey guys, this is Rogue System 087. I just want to make a quick video about the Gunsmodify Zero Blowback Housing Unit design for an R-Mark Glock. They also make a blowback housing unit for a regular Tokyo Marine 17. These blowback housing units are only for a 17. They are not for an 18. They do not go on an 18. It's because those are completely different systems. But anyways, the reason why I'm making this video is because some people are not familiar on how to assemble this. They don't understand what this Zero Blowback Housing Unit design is and where it came from. And some people are not 100% sure what the state of Gunsmodify is, where they're currently at in their Zero design. So this video is going to be a little bit of a history lesson. I hope I don't bore the hell out of you guys, but I hope you guys will sit through it. So first of all, Gunsmodify started off as a company making small internal parts and a few accessories here and there, but mostly for internal parts. But the parts that got them famous was the Gunsmodify Zero Hammer. Now, the reason why this Gunsmodify Zero Hammer was designed in the first place is because on a regular Tokyo Marine Glock 17, this is my custom Glock that I used to game with, you have something called the rotor issue, which is when the blowback housing unit will slow down as it hits the rotor on the slide. And the reason why it slows down is because the sword sticks out. And the bump on the blowback housing unit is where it comes into contact with. So that's what that is. This is a very common problem on a WE Glock 17, also on a Tokyo Marine Glock 17. Depending on what situation it is, sometimes your slide can slow down or jam. It's either one of the two of these things. So it really depends on your system and how you can have configured it. And how the Zero Hammer works was that basically, after the hammer is cocked, the rotor disappears. Hence the reason why it's called a zero hammer. And how that worked back then was that they came out with the hammer and the rotor, and you just buy that as a set and you install into your Glock, and it's more or less a drop-in part, more or less. However, there were a few problems with this design. So when it first came out with it, generation 1, 2, 3, and 4, they kept using the aluminum rotor. And in all 4 situations, I'm not going to talk about all the other special problems, but the main problem is that the aluminum rotor kept wearing out. After you rack the slide about 100 to 200 times, the hammer would no longer cock. Sometimes people will have full auto issues. Sometimes people will have problems where if they rack the slide to load a round, they suddenly discover that the hammer is actually not even cocked in the first place. So those are the problems that came with the aluminum rotor. This is already a proven problem. You can research this yourself, and that's the reason why Gunsmodify moved on to Generation 5. Generation 5 is when they updated this rotor and made this rotor out of steel. That's Gen 5. Okay, so that's the reason why they made it. They made it to address their previous issue. That's the reason why they ended up making a steel rotor. However, after they made a steel rotor version of their Gunsmodify hammer, they discovered that the steel rotor, it would destroy the blowback housing unit at the back, creating a hole. They posted this on their own website. You can go on Gunsmodify's website and you can search this problem yourself. They post a picture of it. So this is not something that I'm just making up. This is all have been discussed and thoroughly researched already. Gunsmodify themselves also publicly post this information on their own website, so you can check that out yourself. And as a special side note, when Gunsmodify made their 4th or 5th generation, they also started to make their own sear and a spring set system. So I'm not going to talk about the spring set system, is because that's not very important. The most important thing is one of their sears. Notice that they use an open design. A standard Tokyo Marine sear does not have this open design, but the Gunsmodify and WE ones have it. And the reason is because it's much easier to manufacture. You don't have to worry about putting a CNC mill and carefully milling out an area to lock the hammer, like how the Tokyo Marine is manufactured. But this design is a little bit funny, and the reason why is because it locks the hammer earlier. And the reason why they do that is so that to address their problem of their hammers originally not locking. It's because when the rotor slowly wears out, or if the blowback housing unit slowly wears out, you will notice that the hammer no longer locks. That's the reason why they ended up making their own sear. I'm not 100% sure if this is the reason why they made it, but this is the reason that I'm told, and this seems to make sense, is because it was an issue that was very common for the Gen 4 and Gen 5. Again, Gen 4 and Gen 5 is when they released this year. Gen 5 was when they added the rotor, the steel rotor. Now, sometime, basically anything after Gen 5, I lost track of, and the reason why that is because I lost interest in Gunsmodify parts. It's because clearly they weren't being tested all that much. They did get a lot of compliments for constantly trying to update their design, but up to that point, the damage has already been done. They already made money off the market, but their parts were still not very good and didn't really work. And now they finally decided to make and redo their zero blowback housing, their zero design. So instead of having a zero hammer now, they now have the design on the blowback housing unit itself. So this is for a Glock 17 RMR build. And I'll show you what this looks like compared to a regular 17. So this is a WE Glock 17 blowback housing unit. So notice that on the Gunsmodify, it lacks the bump that you commonly see on all Glock 17 blowback housing units. It doesn't have the bump at all. Instead, it now uses this movable cocking point. So after it cocks the hammer, and as the rotor approaches this thing, it will disappear and move out of the way. So therefore, this is a movable cocking point idea. Very similar to how something that you would see on certain gas blowbacks like a TM MP9, not TM MP9, a KWA MP9. Any gun with a movable cocking point tends to not work very well. I'm not going to talk about extensively about the problems that occur with this design, is because that is beyond the scope of this video. And you guys also have to test this out for yourself in order to see it. It's because Gunsmodify parts are a bit of a controversial topic. That's the reason why sometimes people are a little bit hesitant to use them. But that's beyond the scope of this video. I'm mainly here just to talk about the state of where Gunsmodify is at, and the reason why they ended up with this design. And after they use the zero blowback housing unit design, they now go back to using a round rotor, the original design. And the package, what it comes with is that it comes with a blowback housing unit made of 60-something aluminum. It's very soft, just keep that in mind. Don't be too abusive to this. If you use steel trigger bars, please use lubricant. It comes with their traditional red piston. The screw for the red piston goes at the back over here. A rear end cover plate. You don't have to use this. You can just buy another Gunsmodify plate with a logo engraved. However, I prefer a blank plate, is because you can just send it over to like Run Workshop and get them to engrave it for you if you want, and they can deep engrave it for you, right? Next thing that it comes with is that these springs, this little capsule over here has 2 springs. You only need one of them. This is to actuate the steel cocking point. This is the thing that I told you about, the movable cocking point. This pin helps secure the moving cocking point. Round rotor steel came with that. This silver screw is for the piston, for the Glock 18 piston. Again, remember, this is a RMR Glock 17 blowback housing unit. It still uses a Glock 18 nozzle and a Glock 18 piston that you have to get yourself. And the last part that it comes with is a hammer. So this hammer is a little bit funny. Is because it also comes with a hammer spring, by the way. I put it in a bag already. There's a hammer spring. I just put it, this is in a bag for someone else. But it also comes with a hammer. This is made of steel. So do note that this is actually a zero hammer. It's just that they milled out this part over here. You can tell where they milled it off. But otherwise, this is just like a normal zero hammer. So just be wary of that. And that's really much it. That's pretty much it. So let's assemble everything for you guys. Sorry for the long history lesson. So I'm going to assume that you have all your nozzle stuff and everything in place. So first I'm going to set this aside, is because this extra spring is quite important. First thing you do is take the red piston and take the black screw and put it in. Please understand that up to this point you should be using a little bit of blue thread lock for any screw that goes onto the blowback housing unit. But for now, I'm not going to use blue thread lock. It's because this belongs to someone. I don't use blue thread lock on other people's stuff. Unless if it's an AR-15. A gas blowback AR-15. Not a real one, of course. Just give it a good twist. And now, install the silver screw on the piston. Now, I don't think I need to teach you guys how to install the hammer. It's because the hammer you can install yourself. Some people have asked me, should I use the hammer that comes with the kit? My answer is you don't have to, but in this case I will. It's because this is a Gunsmodify product. I'm just going to use whatever Gunsmodify provides. And that's the basic of it installed. Now let's move on to this part. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer. So the parts that you will need is the spring. Oh crap, where did it go? The spring, which is right over here. Pin. And the steel movable cocking point. Now how this sits is like this. It sits like this. And these two legs, they rest on the blowback housing unit over this area. So that's how it goes in, like that. Now, there's a trick to this. So what I do is that I approach the blowback housing unit with the two legs of the spring already in. And afterwards, I hold the steel piece against the wall and I go in. Now after you go in, you can partially see the spring already through this hole. What you do is that you weave it. After you weave it in, you can hold one part. Now, after you do that, push the other part in. Sorry. Push the... Sorry, I have a camera in front of my face, so this is a little bit difficult for me to see. Okay, I'm going to take this off camera because I cannot see where my finger is. Or maybe I can. There we go. So that's weaved in through the use of a hex key. Now after you do that, you just insert the steel pin and then weave it through. Now slowly follow through. Don't let it go. And then that's how you get it in. Okay, so you can see how that works. That's so when the rotor hits this, it moves out of the way. Right? Very similar to a KWA MP9. I'm pretty sure it has a movable cocking point. I haven't seen one in a while, but I'm pretty sure it has one. The KSC Glocks also has a very large movable cocking point, but you get the general idea. And now you just assemble the rest of this onto your Glock as usual. And that's pretty much the end of the video. You don't really have to watch any more of this, because up to this point you just have to install your own hammer, install into your Glock, and you know, just use your Glock. So actually, I'm going to end the video here just to make it less boring. So that's it, guys. Hope you guys found this a little bit helpful. The rest of the installation is just your standard Glock installation. Just install it as you normally would, and that's about it. So if you guys enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If not, you know what to do. I've been watching too much Linus Tech Tips. And also, I got a Facebook page you can follow me on, in which I'll leave a link in the description box below. If you guys want to ask questions in the comment section, just feel free to post it up over there. And lastly, if you like the channel, if you'd like to support it, please check out my website at raidtacticalsolutions.com. But otherwise, thanks for watching, guys. Peace. Happy shooting.